The signal from beyond. The signal arrived on a stormy night at Outpost Horizon, Earth's most remote deep space monitoring station. Captain Ilara Reeves was finishing her midnight rounds when the detection system erupted in a symphony of alerts. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Thomas Rivera called from the monitoring bay, his voice unusually tense. The algorithm flagged it as a Category 5 anomaly. Ilara's pulse quickened. In 15 years of deep space monitoring, she'd never witnessed a Category 5. Signals with clear, non-natural patterns suggesting possible intelligent origin. "How long has it been transmitting?" she asked, sliding into the seat beside Rivera. "That's the thing. According to the timestamp comparison, nearly 6 weeks. But it only entered our detection range 3 hours ago." He pulled up a visualization that resembled nothing Ilara had seen before, pulsing geometric patterns that shifted with mathematical precision. "Send an immediate alert to UNSA Command," she ordered. "And wake Dr. Katri. If anyone can make sense of this, it's her." Dr. Amara Katri, Outpost Horizon's brilliant xenolinguist and mathematician, arrived with uncombed hair and mismatched shoes, her eyes already bright with excitement, despite being woken from deep sleep. "It's beautiful," she whispered, watching the pattern cycling through variations. Her fingers flew across the interface, programming additional analysis parameters. "The sequence has embedded Fibonacci ratios, but it's far more complex than any natural phenomenon." Hours stretched into days as the brightest minds on Earth joined the effort remotely. World leaders were quietly briefed as the United Nations Space Authority established Protocol Omega, humanity's long theorized but never implemented first contact response plan. On the 7th day, Dr. Katri burst into the command center, her tablet clutched tightly against her chest. "It's a distress call," she announced to the room of exhausted analysts and officers, "and we've deciphered enough to understand the basics." The main screen lit up with her findings as she explained. "They call themselves the Nelvari. Their fleet of 17 vessels was traveling through what they describe as a dimensional folding when they encountered what appears to be a quantum anomaly, something they call the void snare. The images showed massive ships of elegant design, trapped in what resembled a swirling cosmic whirlpool with distorted spacetime around it. Their technology is incredibly advanced, at least 3 centuries beyond ours by conservative estimates." Dr. Katri continued, "But that's exactly their problem. Their systems are all integrated through quantum entanglement networks and gravitational manipulation. The anomaly has disrupted their core technologies, leaving them stranded and slowly losing life support." General Wei Zong of the UNSA Security Council leaned forward. "And they're asking us for help. That seems improbable. What could we possibly offer a civilization that advanced?" Dr. Katri smiled. "That's the fascinating part, General. They've been observing us for some time. They're specifically reaching out because of our technological diversity." She highlighted sections of the translated message. "Your species maintains technological redundancy across multiple development stages, primitive yet potentially effective against the void snare's quantum disruption. Our singular advancement path has become our vulnerability." They've noticed that humans never fully abandon old technologies when developing new ones, Ilara explained, understanding dawning on her. "We still use combustion engines alongside fusion drives, analog alongside digital, mechanical backups for electronic systems. Our inefficiency might be our greatest strength," Dr. Katri added. "The very thing other species might consider primitive about us." Within days, the Security Council authorized Operation Prometheus, humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. The UNS Resilience, Earth's newest exploration vessel, was hastily retrofitted with an eclectic array of technologies spanning human history, from mechanical differential engines to experimental quantum computers, vacuum tubes alongside neural interfaces. Captain Ilara Reeves was the natural choice to lead the mission, having first detected the signal. Her crew was assembled from specialists across the globe. Dr. Katri for communications, Engineer Cassius Okafor, whose unorthodox approach to technology integration had previously been dismissed as unnecessarily complex. Pilot Jin Chen, whose experience with both cutting-edge and historical aircraft was unmatched. And Medical Officer Dr. Elena Volkov, specializing in radiation and environmental adaptation. As the Resilience prepared for launch from Lunar Base Alpha, protests erupted across Earth. Many feared the mission was a fool's errand, or worse, a trap designed to lure humanity's best technology beyond the safety of our solar system. We should focus on our own problems before playing galactic heroes, argued Senator Malcolm Reed during an emergency session. This could deplete resources needed for Earth's climate restoration projects. Others raised ethical concerns about interfering with an alien civilization, even at their request. Religious leaders debated the theological implications, while military strategists worried about revealing Earth's location to unknown entities. The night before launch, Ilara found herself in the observation dome of Lunar Base Alpha, gazing at the stars that would soon become her road. "Quite the responsibility you're carrying," came a voice behind her. She turned to find Dr. Volkov, the mission's medical officer, watching her with a thoughtful expression. "Does it ever strike you as strange?" Ilara asked. "Humanity's first significant interaction with an alien species isn't a grand meeting of equals or even a conflict. It's a rescue mission." "Perhaps that's fitting," Dr. Volkov replied after a moment. "Throughout history, humans have often been at their best when responding to a call for help, even from strangers. Or at our most foolish," Ilara countered with a wry smile. "Sometimes those are the same thing." Dr. Volkov handed her a tablet displaying the final mission parameters. "The calculations are complete. The journey will take approximately 17 days at maximum acceleration. The Nelvari fleet has approximately 21 days of life support remaining." Ilara nodded, feeling the weight of over 10,000 alien lives resting on their success. A narrow margin. Life's most important moments usually are. The launch the following morning was watched by billions across Earth and its colonies. As the Resilience broke free from lunar gravity, Ilara addressed her crew and, by extension, humanity. "We embark today, not just as representatives of Earth, but as members of a larger community we're only beginning to understand. Whatever awaits us among the stars, we carry with us humanity's greatest strengths, our adaptability, our diversity of thought, and our willingness to extend a hand when called upon." As the ship accelerated toward the edge of the solar system, the crew settled into their routines. Engineer Okafor spent days testing and retesting the hybrid systems, ensuring that ancient vacuum tubes could operate alongside quantum relays if needed. Dr. Katri continued refining their translation algorithms, gradually uncovering more details about the Nelvari. "They're a collective consciousness species," she explained during the 8th day of their journey. "Not like a hive mind exactly. Each individual maintains autonomy, but their neural pathways are naturally attuned to shared experiences. That might explain their technological path," Engineer Okafor noted. "A single unified approach would seem natural to a species that thinks collectively." On the 12th day, they encountered their first challenge. The ship's sensors detected unusual radiation patterns ahead, the outer edges of the quantum anomaly. "The Nelvari call it the void snare," Dr. Katri reminded them. "According to their warning, it disrupts any technology based on quantum principles." "Which is nearly everything they use," Pilot Chen said, "but only some of what we have." Ilara made the decision to proceed with caution, powering down their advanced navigation systems and relying instead on mechanical star trackers and analog calculation methods reminiscent of 20th century space travel. As they penetrated deeper into the anomaly, the laws of physics seemed to waver. Light bent in impossible ways, and time itself felt stretched and compressed simultaneously. Crew members reported disorientation and strange dreams. "It's affecting our neural systems," Dr. Volkov reported after conducting examinations. "Nothing dangerous yet, but we should minimize exposure." On the 16th day, through the haze of distorted space, they spotted the Nelvari fleet, 17 massive vessels arranged in a geometric formation, their sleek hulls pulsing with dim light. They were beautiful despite their evident distress, each ship nearly 5 times the size of the Resilience. "They're detecting us," Dr. Katri announced, monitoring the communication array. "But they can't respond through conventional channels. The anomaly is preventing coherent transmission." Engineer Okafor suggested an alternative. "What about amplitude-modulated radio waves? Old school tech, pre-digital. Basic enough that the anomaly might not interfere." It worked. Crackling through speakers came a voice. Not audible sound, but a pattern of tones that Dr. Katri's translation algorithm slowly processed into recognizable language. "Earth vessel. Approach with caution. Dimensional instability increasing. Life support critical on vessels 3 and 7. Tell them we're here to help," Ilara commanded. "Ask how we can approach safely." As they waited for a response, the crew of the Resilience gazed out at the trapped fleet, the reality of their mission finally sinking in. They were about to attempt humanity's first rescue of an alien civilization, using technology that spanned centuries of human innovation against a cosmic phenomenon barely understood by either species. The reply came through the static. "We have observed your approach method. Your technological redundancy is impressive. Prepare for visual contact." A holographic projection flickered to life on the bridge, unstable and fragmented, but clear enough to reveal the first Nelvari anyone from Earth had ever seen. The alien being had a vaguely humanoid form, but with subtle differences that spoke to an entirely different evolutionary path. Iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with each movement, 4 arms with digits too numerous to count, and large, multifaceted eyes that reflected the light like living gemstones. "I am Coordinator Zeal of the Nelvari Exploration Collective," the being said, its voice translated into eerily perfect English. "On behalf of our people, we thank you for answering our call. We had begun to fear that our observations of your species had been incorrect." "This is Captain Ilara Reeves of Earth's United Nations Space Authority vessel Resilience," Ilara responded, standing tall despite her racing heart. "We've come to offer whatever assistance we can." The alien's expression shifted in a way impossible to interpret. "Then let us hope, Captain Reeves, that what your species lacks in technological advancement, it makes up for in ingenuity. The void snare grows stronger, and our time grows short. First contact and salvation." The Nelvari coordinator's hologram flickered as he explained their situation in greater detail. The 17 vessels had been conducting experiments with what they called dimensional folding, a method of travel that bent space-time to achieve near-instantaneous journeys across vast distances. "We have used this technology successfully for centuries," Coordinator Zeal explained, his multiple limbs moving in graceful patterns that seemed to emphasize his words. "But this region contained an undetected quantum instability. When our ships initiated the fold, it triggered a cascading reaction, creating the void snare," Engineer Okafor finished, studying the data the Nelvari had transmitted. "And because all your systems are quantum-based and interconnected, every attempt to free ourselves only strengthens the anomaly's hold," Zazil confirmed. "Our power reserves are critically low. Life support on several vessels has already failed, forcing us to consolidate our population onto fewer ships." Dr. Katri's translation algorithm continued to improve, capturing nuances in the Nelvari language that revealed their deepening desperation. Over 10,000 beings were crowded onto the remaining functional ships, with environmental systems strained beyond their capacity. "How many have been lost?" Ilara asked quietly. Zil's iridescent skin darkened to a deep indigo. 2,643. Mostly the very young and the elderly, whose bodies could not withstand the stress of the anomaly's effects. A heavy silence fell over the Resilience's bridge. The scale of the tragedy, and what was at stake if they failed, was suddenly, painfully clear. "We need to understand exactly how the void snare operates," Ilara said, breaking the silence, "and then determine which of our technologies might be unaffected by it." For the next 36 hours, the crews of both species worked in parallel. The Resilience maintained a safe distance from the heart of the anomaly, using its hybrid systems to analyze the phenomenon, while the Nelvari shared everything they had learned during their weeks of entrapment. Engineer Okafor, working with his Nelvari counterparts, developed a theory. The anomaly creates a quantum uncertainty field that exponentially amplifies when exposed to entangled particles. The more advanced the technology, the more it relies on quantum principles, and the more vulnerable it becomes. Which explains why our older systems remain operational, Pilot Chen noted. They're too primitive to be affected. Not primitive, corrected a Nelvari scientist named Trill, whose specialty seemed to be theoretical physics. Foundational. In our pursuit of efficiency, we abandoned these stages too quickly. Dr. Volkov, who had been monitoring the health of both crews, reported that the anomaly's effects were accelerating. The Nelvari are particularly susceptible due to their natural neural connectivity. They're experiencing a form of collective psychic stress that's weakening their immune systems. Time was running out. After 3 days of analysis, Ilara called together the Joint Human Nelvari Task Force. "We need solutions, not just understanding," she said firmly. Engineer Okafor, what options have you identified? Okafor displayed a schematic showing both fleets. We've developed 3 potential approaches. Option 1. We use our ship's conventional thrusters to physically tow each Nelvari vessel out individually. Problematic because it would take too long and the structural integrity of their ships might not withstand the stress. He switched to the next display. Option 2. We attempt to neutralize the anomaly using a precisely calculated antimatter detonation. This could potentially disrupt the quantum field long enough for the Nelvari to activate their emergency propulsion systems. And the third option? Coordinator Zeal asked. Okafor hesitated. It's experimental. We believe we can temporarily transfer the Nelvari's essential systems to our technological framework, essentially running their life support through our computers while disconnecting them from their own quantum network. This might break the feedback loop and allow them to drift out of the anomaly's influence. The options were debated intensely. The antimatter approach was deemed too risky. A miscalculation could destroy both fleets instantly. The towing method would save some ships but sacrifice others. The system transfer presented its own challenges. The vast differences between human and Nelvari technology made compatibility a significant concern. In the end, they decided on a hybrid approach, adapting elements from all 3 options. We'll create a technological bridge, Ilara explained to both crews, using our analog systems as a buffer between the Nelvari quantum networks and the anomaly. Simultaneously, we'll use a series of small antimatter pulses, not to destroy the void snare, but to create momentary pathways through it. The plan required perfect coordination. The Resilience would approach each Nelvari vessel in sequence, establishing a hardwired connection, literally running cables between the ships, while simultaneously deploying specially designed antimatter charges to temporarily weaken the anomaly's effect in specific sectors. The timing must be precise, Trill warned. Too early, and the pathways will close before the ships can move. Too late, and the anomaly will adapt and strengthen. The operation began with the most vulnerable Nelvari ship, a medical vessel where life support was failing rapidly. As the Resilience maneuvered alongside, the crew could see the alien passengers watching through viewports, their iridescent skin pulsing with what Dr. Katri identified as an expression of hope. Engineer Okafor, working in an environmental suit alongside 2 Nelvari engineers, successfully established the connection. The alien ship systems began running through the Resilience's computers, an unprecedented technological symbiosis that strained their processors to the limit. Ready for antimatter pulse deployment, Pilot Chen reported. On my mark, Ilara commanded, watching as the calculations aligned. 3, 2, 1. Execute. The pulse created a visible ripple in the distorted space, a momentary clearing in the cosmic storm. The Nelvari vessel, directed by the hybrid human-alien system, surged forward through the opening. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed to hesitate at the boundary. And then it was through, emerging into normal space beyond the anomaly's influence. A cheer erupted across both crews. One ship saved, 16 to go. The process was repeated with increasing efficiency as they refined their method. By the 5th ship, they had reduced the transfer time by half. By the 10th, they were moving with the confidence of a team that had worked together for years rather than days. Not everything went smoothly. During the rescue of the 13th vessel, an unexpected surge in the anomaly's energy caused a catastrophic failure in the Resilience's main power grid. They were forced to switch to backup systems, some of which hadn't been used in decades of space travel. Diesel generators, Okafor explained to the fascinated Nelvari engineers as he activated the ancient technology. Mechanical energy conversion, inefficient but completely unaffected by quantum disruption. The sound of the generators, a steady rhythmic thumping, became a heartbeat of hope as they continued the rescue operation. 16 ships rescued. One remained, the Nelvari flagship, where Coordinator Zil had insisted on staying until all others were safe. But the anomaly had learned from each escape, adapting to close the pathways more quickly. Their antimatter supplies were nearly exhausted, and the Resilience's hybrid systems were failing after the strain of multiple transfers. We need something different for the flagship, Ilara realized. A new approach the anomaly hasn't adapted to yet. It was Dr. Kefri who proposed the solution, one so elegant in its simplicity that even the Nelvari were stunned. Radio waves, she said, not to communicate, but as carriers. We modulate the ship's quantum signature onto analog radio waves, technology so fundamentally basic that the anomaly cannot detect or disrupt it. The theory was sound, but the implementation required both human ingenuity and Nelvari precision. While engineer Okafor constructed a massive radio transmitter from spare parts, the Nelvari scientists worked to encode their ship's quantum identity into a format that could be transmitted through it. This is either brilliant or insane, Pilot Chen muttered as they prepared for the final rescue attempt. Throughout human history, those have often been the same thing, Ilara replied with a tight smile. As they activated the transmitter, the flagship began to shimmer, its physical form becoming partially translucent as its quantum signature was temporarily displaced onto the radio carrier wave. The antimatter pulse created one final pathway, and the ghost-like vessel passed through, gradually solidifying as it emerged beyond the anomaly's reach. The void snare, deprived of the energy it had been drawing from the Nelvari fleet, began to collapse upon itself. The Resilience barely escaped the implosion, riding the shockwave to safety. In the aftermath, as both fleets regrouped in normal space, Coordinator Zil requested permission to board the Resilience. The first physical meeting between humans and Nelvari took place in the ship's conference room, where the air had been carefully adjusted to accommodate both species' breathing requirements. Zil was even more impressive in person, standing nearly 7 feet tall, his iridescent skin shifting through colors that seemed to correspond with his emotions. He approached Ilara with a formal bow, then surprised everyone by extending his hand in the human gesture of a handshake. "Captain Reeves," he said, his multiple eyes focusing on her with an intensity that was somehow both alien and familiar. "The Nelvari Collective owes humanity a debt that cannot be quantified." Ilara accepted the handshake, feeling the strange texture of his skin, warm and almost fluid, yet solid. "We responded as anyone would to a call for help." "No," Zigzale said firmly. "Not anyone would. Many species would have ignored our plight or exploited it. Others would have lacked the technological diversity to implement a solution." He gestured to the hybrid systems of the Resilience. "Your species' approach to technology, maintaining multiple paths rather than pursuing a single perfect solution, saved us all." In the days that followed, as the Nelvari fleet recovered and prepared for their journey home, an unprecedented exchange of knowledge and culture took place. The aliens shared advancements in medicine, energy production, and material science, while carefully avoiding technologies that might lead humanity down the same path of over-reliance on quantum systems. In return, the humans offered insights into their technological development philosophy, the value of maintaining multiple approaches, the importance of redundancy, and the creative potential found in the intersection of different technological eras. When it came time for the Nelvari to depart, they left behind representatives who would serve as ambassadors to Earth, and extended an invitation for a human delegation to visit their home systems. The foundations for an interstellar alliance had been laid, not through treaties or trade agreements, but through a rescue mission that demonstrated the best qualities of both species. On the journey back to Earth, Ilara found Dr. Khatri in the observation dome, watching as the Nelvari fleet prepared for their dimensional fold home. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Dr. Khatri said, gesturing to the alien ships glowing against the backdrop of stars. "They've modified their folding technology based on what they learned from the anomaly, incorporated some of our primitive safeguards. And we've incorporated some of their advancements," Ilara noted. "Though I suspect General Zhang will insist we maintain our technological diversity, rather than becoming too dependent on their quantum systems." A lesson learned by both species, Dr. Khatri agreed. Their efficiency and our redundancy, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. As the Nelvari fleet activated their dimensional fold, a spectacular display of light and energy that briefly outshone the surrounding stars, Ilara thought about humanity's place in the universe. For all their technological advancement, the Nelvari had needed humanity's help. Not despite our seeming inefficiency, but because of it. "I wonder what other civilizations are out there," she mused, "and what unique approaches they've developed." "That's the beauty of it," Dr. Khatri replied. "The universe doesn't favor a single path, not for species, not for technologies, not for civilizations. Diversity isn't just valuable, it's essential." As Earth appeared on their view screens, a blue marble floating in the vastness of space, Ilara prepared to report on their success. Humanity had taken its first step into a larger community, bringing with it not just technology or resources, but a philosophy that had proven its worth among the stars. That progress isn't always a straight line, that old ways can complement the new, and that sometimes what others see as inefficiency might be your greatest strength. In rescuing the Nelvari, humanity had discovered something about itself, and opened a door to a future where the unique contributions of every civilization, no matter how different their path, would help all navigate the challenges of an ever-expanding universe.